What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another weekly news video. I want to kick things off by saying Happy New Year to everyone. This will be very quick, only a few topics today, as I do often say, but we'll jump straight into it because we're going to cover things like Card Collector 2, as well as some grading issues and also a tops error with, accidentally putting the wrong player on a card. So we'll talk through each of those, and then as always, you can share your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, the first thing I want to kick things off with is actually a video that I put out 2 days ago that I want to urge you guys to go ahead and check if you haven't already seen, because it relates to a huge reholder scam in the comic book space, specifically for CGC. Now, for those of you that don't know much about comics, CGC is the equivalent of PSA for comic books, if not bigger. They are basically bigger. It's a huge sort of, history for them in that space. They've done such good work, and this is a scam that looks like it involves hundreds of books that were basically cracked out of slabs without damaging them, replacing them with inferior books, and then going ahead and on-selling it to somebody else. And the reason why it's important, as I did talk to in that video, if you have not seen it, is that we've got similar scams that happen in the sports card space. So even if you're not a comic book fan, as I do talk to in that video, please do check it out, because there's some things that I think are going to happen off the back of that, specifically what CGC try and do to make their process better, that I think will trickle into the sports card space. I have no doubts that the likes of PSA, BGS, and obviously CGC's sports card arm will be paying very close attention to it, because I think there's going to be some things that need to change there that'll improve the grading process as a whole. And I've got some things in my mind that I think will be made better as a result. There's a few things I want to wait to sort of see what they come out and say first. I'll share those in a later video, but if you haven't seen it, please do check it out, because I'll say it once again, just because that sort of stuff you think is only happening in the comic book realm, stuff like this has happened in the sports card space. And I did actually reference this specific video over here in that video. So if you haven't seen this one either, please do check it out, because I released this about 9 months ago now, and it essentially relates to a huge soccer syndicate, as I do explain in the title. And that's because you essentially have a group of individuals that were, faking soccer stickers and soccer cards and submitting them to various graders. And whilst that might not sound similar to the whole CGC thing, because the CGC thing is taking genuine books out and putting crappier genuine books into those slabs and, misleading people, i.e. putting a 7.0 in a 9.0 slab, the people that were doing these fake cards were also doing reholder scams as well, where they're cracking open things and replacing labels and replacing cards and all that sort of stuff. So the same thing goes hand in hand, and this is a very important video for you to check out. And the reason why I think it's also important, and it's surprisingly the CGC video is down here, the reason why this video is important to watch is because CGC's response was quite good in the grand scheme of things. Like, holding all things equal, they've done a really good job responding to the situation. Some people will give them crap for that, and yes, they're only responding because they've been forced to, but their response is basically saying, we're going to take this person to court, we've identified them, we're going to review our process, we're going to make sure that everybody that was scammed is going to get made whole. This is what we're going to try and do to make our process better. And the reason why it's important is because if you check out this video and you pay attention to what that soccer syndicate was doing, a lot of their cards sort of ended up in BGS slabs, and BGS have essentially remained silent on the whole situation. One of the big issues that BGS had in that situation is not only with reholders basically getting put through their grading process as well, but they were grading so many fake soccer cards, and they obviously could not tell that they're grading this many. And it sort of reached a point where almost all of these ones being graded by BGS were making their way onto PWCC's platform. And PWCC even came out and made a statement that I talked to in this video, and then also a later video, where they basically say, well, we know BGS has a problem grading soccer stickers because they can't tell fakes from genuines, even though the community knows that. And this is almost a direct quote from a PWCC's rep. And they say that, but they still put them on their platform. They're like, we know BGS sucks, we know BGS can't spot fakes, but we're still going to list them on our platform. And like, those two elements there, number one, BGS not turning away from grading these, not saying we can't grade these anymore because we don't know what we're doing, or our reholder process needs to be improved, aka what CGC is doing. But then also PWCC, from an auction house and a sports card perspective, they know BGS have issues, yet they continue to allow those cards go on their platform. So that's a reason why I think this video is a very important one for you to watch, because it sort of gives you an understanding as to how poor some of these businesses are in this space again. And stuff like this needs better traction, because there's obviously loopholes within their process, and the fact that they ignore this kind of crap is not a good thing. And the longer they ignore it, the worse it becomes, right? The more that you've got people able to funnel $1 million of cards, which is what this essentially happened here. millions of dollars of fake soccer cards and stickers and all that kind of stuff have gone through BGS, SGC, PSA because they're so slow to drag their feet. And yes, they're banned individuals who are the ones submitting them and all that kind of stuff. So you have to check out the video, but it's like, well, what are you doing beyond that? So like I said, I think the CGC response is quite good, like holding all things equal, but it leaves a lot for BGS and PWCC to learn from, right? Because they're sort of dragging their feet with stuff like this. Meanwhile, CGC have reacted within, the space of 3 or 4 days. So, please do check out both of those videos because I think they are very, very important. And, before we get to the Card Collector 2, situation, I'll share my thoughts on that in a second. I want to quickly highlight this. So somebody tagged me in this on Twitter, and then they also tagged me in a story, which I only saw this morning, and that's an error that Topps have made. And you can see on the left, you've got a card that's meant to be Sal Frelick, the Topps captains of the World Baseball Classic. You sort of see here in Brandon Williams' post, Abbott_fan on Twitter. I think he goes by the same thing on Instagram. He said, "Hey, at Topps, can you please make sure the pictures used are of the correct players? This is Brett Sully and not Sal Frelick." And this is just another case of, Topps, crap in the bed. And yes, I know errors like this happen all the time. They happen, a lot in the 90s and the noughties and all that kind of stuff. And we also spoke about it recently when it came to Topps actually making this error themselves. But it's sort of stuff like this. Again, yes, I know it happens often, but come on, guys, can we make sure the right player's there? And, I didn't fact check it. So this is Brett Sullivan on the right. This is obviously Brett Sullivan on the Sal Frelick card. This is what Sal Frelick looks like in case you don't know who he is, but you can sort of see it on here. That's very clearly not him. So yes, it is a minor error because this stuff sort of happens all the time. But, again, with all those mistakes that Topps has been making over the last 12 months, something like this, can you still cut them slack for it? Sure, but it's like, guys, get your house in order. Stuff like this really shouldn't happen in this day and age. I just said, yes, it happens a lot. Yes, Topps made that mistake recently. From my perspective, this is not an error that should, ever happen in 2023. We're in 2024 now, and this should not be happening. So yeah, I'm sort of keen to hear what you guys have to say on this. Yes, it is a minor error, but it goes to what I just said, right? I'm not actually sure who the captain was for Italy, so I'll try to do some research. I'm not sure if Sal Frelick was the actual captain. They just accidentally put Brett Sullivan on there, or Brett Sullivan was the captain and they accidentally put Sal Frelick's name on there. It was a bit hard to try and find the answer to this. Obviously, I don't pay super close attention to baseball these days, even though I am wearing a Red Sox hat. But I am Italian, so maybe I should have paid closer attention to this. But I'm keen for you guys to clarify me, or for me down in the comments below, I should say. But either way, it's an error that, should not be happening. So we'll close off the video today talking about Card Collector 2. Now, I'm assuming many of you have probably seen Ryan's response, Card Collector 2, or the Sports Card Radio article that's on my screen right now. I was tagged in some stories a few days ago from basically a new Instagram account, and they sort of came out with some accusations towards Card Collector 2. Now, before we get into those, I'll quickly talk to the fact that we've covered Ryan a number of times on this channel about some of the boxes that he's opened, especially those national packs where he got some, top dog cards, which, always look suspicious when you have an influencer breaking those. And whilst he is a card store, first and foremost, he does have a huge following in this space. So, the eyes are always on him. He's then also had some really, strange boxes that he's ripped on his own channel where he's got a lot of one-of-ones and things like that. Now, again, that stuff can be purely coincidental, but it's always been something that we've asked questions on when we have seen it. And obviously when we've seen a story like this basically come out with somebody saying, well, I have evidence of Ryan, Card Collector 2, working with a Panini employee, and he names a Panini employee to get loaded boxes towards him. And he talks through having email evidence and all that kind of stuff. Now, I reached out to this individual. They said they were willing to come onto my channel to talk about the evidence and show what they do in fact have. But obviously stuff like this is always a bit strange to talk to because there's nothing really to go off. It just seems like a guy's created an account purely to hate on Ryan and obviously Card Collector 2 being one and the same. So it's an interesting one. I'm going to try and stay close to this guy. He said he's willing to come on. He said he's going to share some of this information. Obviously, I'll talk to it if it does look genuine, but for the most part, I think you need to take it with a grain of salt. And you sort of got the response from, Ryan Card Collector 2 over here, where he talks about the fact that it's a new account, it's blatantly false. He denies everything. You can sort of pause the video and read this for yourself, but he's basically saying it must be a slow news week as 2023 wraps up because this is fake. There was also some other accusations in there around the relationship that Ryan had with Mark's Cards, who is, photographed over here. If you guys do recall, one of the things that essentially happened was that Ryan was basically using Mark's Cards for his own, PSA submission. So people were going to Card Collector 2, submitting cards to PSA through him, or so they thought. He didn't disclose to them that he was using Mark's Cards to then submit them. And sort of what he goes on to disclose in some of his stories was that as well as using that and not telling people, he was also saying things took longer than, what in fact they actually did, i.e. cards basically saying it took 6 weeks, so he would submit them, under a slower service and pocket the difference in cash and all that kind of stuff. So these accusations appear very strong, and I've had a few people ask me to talk to this. I think we just need to take it with a grain of salt for the time being. He does in fact name a Panini employer, who is this lady over here, Sharon Messick. But again, that could have been taken from LinkedIn. He seems very, he's got a basically strong belief that the stuff that he does have is accurate, but this could just be a hit piece. So sort of take it with a grain of salt until we see more information come to light. Like I said, this guy said he wants to come onto my channel and share this evidence. I'm willing to give anybody and everybody a platform, as long as I sort of see it beforehand, because I'm not going to make a smear campaign towards Ryan or anybody else if it all looks fake. So we'll check it out. If this guy, wants to show it and stand by it, then we'll have him on. We'll talk about it, because this sort of stuff needs to be talked to if in fact it is genuine. And the one thing I will sort of say is, people talk about loaded boxes all the time and say it's not possible. I stand by the fact that it is possible, as I have talked to many times, as has Sports Card Radio talked to many times, as has AOH Sports, amongst many others. And one of the things that I've often mentioned is how poor these processes are at these businesses that allow a loaded box to happen, i.e. somebody out at Panini or Topps, they want to get a box to somebody for a certain reason. They could make that happen if they wanted to. And we also had, Carvin come on a live stream that Raul and I had, as well as Ziggy No, and he talked to the fact that he doesn't think loaded boxes are possible. But we just recently had those Topps backdoored cards, right? And I closed that video by saying, well, you've had all these cards get backdoored from Topps over a number of years, and Panini, right? From the manufacturing facility, it looks like a number of 1-of-1s, out of 5 cards, die cuts, all this kind of stuff. And it looks like it's been happening for years. And it was only really brought to the mainstream attention in the last few months. And nobody knew that was happening, right? And it very much looks like there's one employee or 2 employees out at Topps, out at Panini, backdooring these cards. So the fact that that could happen for so long, do you really not think that somebody could bypass or manipulate a process to get a loaded box to someone if they wanted to in some capacity? And me automatically knowing business processes as well as I do, because I do that sort of stuff for a living, I automatically think, yes, it's possible, because I'm seeing all these mistakes that are happening, right? That does not fill me with confidence that their business processes are robust. But the fact that you've now got somebody bypassing processes and backdooring cards makes it even more likely. So, I stand by my statement that loaded boxes are likely, which is why I'm interested in this story. But again, I think we just need to take it, with a grain of salt for now. I've said that a few times, until we actually see some evidence, because it could just be some hanky-panky accusations that the guy is trying to have a bit of fun with. But, at the end of the day, I'm not going to really talk about it in detail and go after Ryan until I see some clear-cut evidence, because I owe you guys that. As viewers, you come to me because you like the information that I do share, but I'm also fair and balanced. So I'm not going to go after someone unless we get some, hard evidence and all that sort of stuff. Like I said, I will give this guy an opportunity to come on if he wants to talk about it. But in the meantime, check out the Sports Card Radio article, check out Card Collector 2's response to the whole situation, because I think for the time being, like I said, take it with a grain of salt. So that's sort of it for today. Please share your thoughts down in the comments below. I hope you all had a happy new year, depending on where you are in the world. It's almost the end of January 1st over here, so everyone should have had their New Year's by the time you're seeing this video. Well, I think you all would have. But I just hope you all had a great time, had a fun time. I hope all your family remains safe. I hope you all have a fun 2024. And I'm really excited to talk about some of the things on this channel over the next 12 months, because I think there's a lot of exciting things ahead for the sports card space that I'm really keen to talk to in the next few days. There's a few things that I'm thinking through. So, we had a lot of fun in 2023. I think things are going to get worse in some aspects, but a lot better in others. So I look forward to going on the journey with you guys once again. Thank you, as always, for your support. This channel would not be what it is without your dialogue in the comments, without your dialogue on Instagram and Twitter. I appreciate everything that you guys do, and I hope we can, continue to have fun in the sports card space. So once again, Happy New Year, and I hope you and your family are safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.